I know we've been quiet recently, been on holiday, but he's back. Typical. Before the holiday, nothing happened in the camera world. As soon as I go on holiday, Sony announced the ZV-E10, and news comes out that has annoyed a lot of Canon users. No idea why. The R3. It's been talked about, speculated for ever and a day. Canon even had a development announcement several weeks ago confirming it was going to be a sport-orientated camera, like we couldn't have guessed that one. Confirming it was going to have a 1D sort of style body with the vertical grip built in, and confirming it was going to shoot 30 frames a second. But one specification that they didn't allude to was the resolution. And this has been a topic of discussion ever since. Lots of people speculating and claiming that it was going to be 45 plus megapixels to match the R5, to match the upcoming Nikon Z9, to try and rival the Sony A1. Now, I didn't think that was going to be the case, and it turns out it's not. There are samples of the R3 being used by photographers at the Olympics now. They've shown that they are using them. And some of the sample shots seemingly have EXIF data to show the resolution being 24 megapixels. Now, some people have tried to suggest that maybe the camera has a higher resolution than 24 megapixels, and maybe the image has either been cropped down or they're shooting in a lower resolution mode. I'll be amazed if that's the case. 24 megapixels seems like the resolution it's going to be, and the sort of resolution that I figured it was going to be. Several weeks ago, there was mention, I'm pretty sure it was in an interview with one of the heads at Canon, stating that the R3 was not going to be their flagship camera. Makes sense, that would be the R1. Now, if they release the R3 as a 45, 50 megapixel camera that can shoot 30 frames a second, what the hell were they going to do with an R1? It seemed far more likely to me that the R3 is going to be a precursor to the R1, and that the R1 is going to be their answer to the Sony A1. And it makes more sense if you then consider that Canon don't really have an answer to the Sony A9. Sure, they've got the R5, which on paper can shoot up to 20 frames a second, the same as the A9, and it has almost double the resolution at 45 megapixels versus 24, but let's be realistic here. In reality, while the R5 is pretty damn quick, it's not as quick as an A9, certainly not an A9 II. So an R3 at 24 megapixels able to shoot 30 frames a second would essentially be a direct competitor to the A9 II, and then an R1 at a 45, 50 megapixel resolution able to shoot 30 odd frames a second would be a competitor to the A1. Now, I know some people like having really high resolution files to be able to crop in a lot, but let's be realistic here. Up until the release of the A1, there was always a sacrifice between resolution and speed. No one in their right mind thought the A1 was going to have the specs that it had. The A9 II, 24 megapixels, 20 frames a second, that to most photographers is more than enough. The 1DX Mark III, 20 frames a second, 20 megapixels, 24 megapixels, somewhere around there. It's not like the moment the A1 hit the market, suddenly everyone who had an A9 Mark II could no longer take pictures properly and they had to sell it and buy an A1. That's not the way technology works. Yeah, sure, higher resolution would be nice. That is likely to come in the R1. It's not like the R3 is likely going to be a bad camera because of it. It's just not going to suit everybody. But then there will be likewise a lot of people who don't want excessive resolutions because they don't want huge files. And okay, we don't know the price of the R3 yet. I've seen speculation and rumors that it's going to be slightly less than the A1, but more expensive than the A9 II, which you could argue if you're paying a price similar to the A1, you would want specs similar to the A1, but then you don't know what the rest of the features are going to be like. We've seen mentions that it's going to have the eye track autofocus in the viewfinder, where you can literally just look at a target and it will reacquire focus. That's going to be a big deal for a lot of people. A lot of people who will have bought the R5 to shoot sports have probably thrown a battery grip onto it as well because they want the ergonomics for shooting in that orientation. The R3 has it built in, and all of that is going to add value to the camera more than just resolution. And the stupid thing is, we don't even know yet what the finished product is actually going to be like. It could have been a 45 megapixel resolution shooting 30 frames a second, could be total garbage. You look at the A1 specs, 50 megapixels 30 frames a second seems the perfect camera. It's got more speed than an A9 II and almost the resolution of an A7 R4. I know a photographer who's even had the A1 alongside the A7 R4, trying them both out, and he's even sent me full-size images, samples from both of those cameras. Even though it's got almost the same resolution, it just doesn't look anywhere near as good. I know I've probably shocked a few people with this video, me jumping at the defense of Canon when they seem to think I'm a Sony fanboy. It's just, it seems like we've hit this mentality now where people just expect everything. I'll wager Canon were working on the R3 as the R1 to exceed the A9 II. Same resolution, 50% higher shooting speed. They thought they had it sorted until, oh shit, the A1's just hit the market and has the same shooting speed, but twice the resolution. Crap, what are we going to do? I know, we'll make the R1 the R3, we'll go back to the drawing board and we'll make an R1 that's going to rival the A1. It's not like Canon could just go, shit, A1's hit the market, quick, give me an R5, let's make the body a bit bigger, chuck in a few more processors, boom, R1. Takes a bit longer to develop than that, and they can only start developing it once they knew that the A1 existed, which, like I said, pretty much nobody knew was the case. No doubt the R3 will be an impressive camera, and it will probably be better overall than the A9 II, even if it's more expensive, and at some point in the future we will see an R1 to rival the A1. Granted, the A1 II might be out by that point, but it is at least Canon making the solid steps in the right direction, which is creating competition in the market, which benefits everybody. So, that's that rant over. What do you make of the upcoming R3? Leave your thoughts and comments in the box down below. While you're down there, if you haven't already, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button, and then hopefully we'll see you in the next video.